The cabin lights flickered as the plane taxied toward the runway, but 17-year-old Jaden Carter wasn't thinking about takeoff. He was focused on the flight attendant's icy stare, her finger jabbing toward the exit, and the words that cut deeper than any blade. "You don't belong here." 7 minutes later, the plane screeched to a halt, not because of turbulence, but because Jaden's father, a man no one on board expected, made a call that turned the sky silent. Jaden Carter sat in seat 14B, his headphones blasting a lo-fi beat, trying to drown out the hum of the plane's engines. It was his first time flying alone, a trip from Atlanta to Chicago to visit his aunt for the summer. At 17, Jaden was tall for his age, with a quiet confidence that came from years of navigating spaces where he often felt like an outsider. His backpack, stuffed with a sketchbook and a dog-eared copy of Dune, rested under the seat. He'd saved for months to afford this trip, a chance to escape the weight of his small-town life. The flight attendant, a woman with a tight blonde bun, and a name tag reading Karen, had been watching him since he boarded. Jaden noticed her glances, sharp, suspicious, lingering too long. He'd seen that look before, in stores, on streets, in classrooms. It was the look that said he was trouble before he'd even opened his mouth. "Sir, you need to turn off your music," Karen said. Her voice clipped as she loomed over his seat. The plane was still at the gate, passengers settling in. Jaden pulled out one earbud, meeting her gaze. "It's not loud, ma'am. I can hear the announcements." Her lips thinned. "I said off, and sit up straight. This isn't your living room." He frowned but complied, pausing his music and sitting taller. He didn't want trouble. Not here, not now. The other passengers, mostly white, glanced over briefly before returning to their phones or magazines. The man in 14A, a middle-aged guy in a suit, shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Minutes passed, and the plane began to taxi. Jaden relaxed, sketching a futuristic cityscape in his notebook, his pencil moving in quick, precise strokes. He was lost in the lines when Karen appeared again. "Young man, where's your boarding pass?" Her tone was sharper now, almost accusing. Jaden blinked, confused. "I showed it when I boarded. It's in my bag." "Show it again. Now." Her arms crossed, and her voice carried, drawing eyes from nearby seats. Jaden reached for his backpack, but Karen's hand shot out, grabbing it first. "I'll check it myself. We've had issues with stowaways." "Stowaways?" Jaden's voice rose, incredulous. "Ma'am, I paid for this ticket. I'm not—" "Don't raise your voice at me," she snapped, unzipping his bag and rummaging through it. She pulled out his sketchbook, flipping through it as if it held contraband. A few passengers whispered, their stares heavy. Jaden's face burned. He wanted to shout, to demand why she was singling him out. But he knew how that would look, a black teen arguing with a flight attendant. Instead, he said, "Please, just give me my bag back." Karen's eyes narrowed. "You're being uncooperative. That's it, you're off this flight." "What?" Jaden's heart pounded. "I didn't do anything." She pressed a button on her headset, speaking quickly. "Security, we have a disruptive passenger in 14B. Please escort him off." The cabin went quiet, the air thick with tension. Jaden's hands shook as he stood, grabbing his bag. "This isn't right," he said, his voice steady despite the anger boiling inside. "You're targeting me." Karen didn't respond, just pointed to the aisle. Two security officers boarded, their faces blank as they motioned for Jaden to follow. As he walked toward the jet bridge, humiliation stung worse than the Georgia summer heat. He heard a woman whisper, "Probably deserved it," and his fists clenched. But Jaden wasn't just any teen, and his father wasn't just any man. 7 minutes after Jaden stepped onto the jet bridge, the plane lurched to a stop. The engines whined down, and a murmur rippled through the cabin. Karen frowned, adjusting her headset as the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've been instructed to return to the gate due to an operational issue. Please remain seated." Outside, Jaden sat on a bench in the terminal, his phone buzzing in his hand. He'd texted his father, Marcus Carter, the moment security escorted him off. "They kicked me off the plane. Said I was disruptive. I didn't do anything." His fingers hovered over the screen, unsure what else to say. Marcus wasn't the type to overreact, but Jaden knew his dad would be furious. Marcus Carter was a name most passengers on Flight 237 wouldn't recognize, but in certain circles, it carried weight. a former Air Force pilot turned aviation consultant. Marcus had spent years advising airlines, airports, and even the FAA. He knew the industry's inner workings, its protocols, its politics, its blind spots. And he knew how to pull strings. Jaden's phone rang. "Dad," he answered, his voice tight. "Tell me exactly what happened," Marcus said, his tone calm but edged with steel. Jaden recounted everything: the flight attendant's hostility, the boarding pass demand, the public humiliation. When he finished, there was a long pause. "Stay where you are," Marcus said. "I'm handling this." In Atlanta's control tower, a phone call was already causing waves. Marcus had contacts in high places, and one call to the airport's operations director was enough to halt Flight 237. The director, a man named Greg Ellison who owed Marcus a favor from a decade-old runway incident, didn't hesitate. "Ground the plane," Marcus had said. "My son was removed without cause. I want answers." Back in the terminal, Jaden watched as the jet bridge reconnected to the plane. Passengers inside exchanged confused glances as Karen's face paled, her headset buzzing with urgent instructions. The captain emerged from the cockpit, speaking quietly to her. Whatever he said made her jaw tighten. Jaden's phone buzzed again. A text from his dad. "Meet me at gate C12. I'm here." Marcus Carter strode into the terminal like a storm rolling in. At 45, he was a commanding presence. 6'2", broad-shouldered, with a shaved head and eyes that could cut through lies. His suit was crisp, his movements deliberate. Jaden spotted him immediately and stood, relief mixing with the lingering sting of what had happened. Marcus pulled Jaden into a quick hug. "You okay?" Jaden nodded, though his throat felt tight. "I didn't do anything, Dad. She just picked me out." "I know," Marcus said, his voice low. "Let's fix this." They approached gate C12, where airline staff were scrambling. The operations director, Ellison, was there, his face flushed as he spoke with a supervisor. Karen stood nearby, her arms crossed, looking defiant but uneasy. "Mr. Carter," Ellison said, extending a hand. "We're investigating the incident." "I assure you—" "Investigating?" Marcus's voice was calm but carried an edge that made Ellison flinch. "My son was humiliated and removed from a flight he paid for, based on nothing but one woman's bias. I want her name, her employee ID, and a full explanation." Karen stepped forward, her chin raised. "Sir, your son was uncooperative and disruptive. I followed protocol." Marcus's gaze locked onto her, unblinking. "Protocol? You singled out a black teenager, searched his bag without consent, and had him escorted off in front of 100 passengers. That's not protocol. That's prejudice." The terminal grew quiet, staff and passers-by watching the exchange. Karen's face reddened, but she held her ground. "I have the right to ensure passenger safety, and I have the right to ensure my son isn't targeted," Marcus shot back. He turned to Ellison. "This flight doesn't move until I speak to your CEO, and I want every passenger on board informed why they're delayed." Ellison hesitated, then nodded. "I'll make the call." Jaden watched his father, a mix of pride and awe swelling in his chest. Marcus wasn't just angry. He was strategic, leveraging his influence to demand accountability. But Jaden also felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about him. It was about every kid who'd ever been made to feel small, every person judged before they could speak. Within an hour, the airline's CEO was on a video call, his face grim as Marcus laid out the incident. Jaden stood beside his father, recounting his side of the story, his voice steady despite the eyes on him. Passengers from Flight 237, now deplaned and milling in the terminal, began recording the scene on their phones. Whispers of discrimination and lawsuit floated through the crowd. The CEO promised a full investigation and an immediate suspension for Karen pending review. "We take these matters seriously, Mr. Carter," he said. "We'll ensure this doesn't happen again." "It shouldn't have happened in the first place," Marcus replied. "My son deserves an apology, publicly, from her." Karen's defiance cracked. She looked at Jaden, her lips parting as if to speak, but no words came. Finally, she said, "I'm sorry if you felt targeted. That wasn't my intent." Jaden met her gaze, his voice quiet but firm. "It's not about how I felt. It's about what you did. You saw me and decided I didn't belong. That's on you." The terminal was silent. the weight of his words settling over everyone. Karen looked away, her hands trembling slightly. Marcus placed a hand on Jaden's shoulder. "We're not done," he said softly. "This airline's going to answer for their training, their policies, everything. But for now, let's get you to Chicago." The airline offered Jaden a first-class seat on the next flight, but he shook his head. "I just want to get there without being treated like a criminal." As Jaden boarded the next flight, he felt different, not just because of the new seat or the apologetic crew, but because of what he'd seen his father do. Marcus hadn't just grounded a plane, he'd grounded an injustice, forcing the world to listen. Jaden realized he carried that same strength, that same refusal to be silenced. In Chicago, his aunt greeted him with a hug, her eyes brimming with pride when he told her the story. "Your dad's a force," she said, "but you're no slouch, either. You stood tall." Back in Atlanta, Marcus was already working with lawyers, pushing for systemic changes in the airline's policies. Jaden knew it wouldn't be easy. Change never was, but he also knew he'd be part of it. His sketchbook, once filled with futuristic cities, now held a new drawing. A plane grounded under a clear sky, with a single figure standing tall in front of it. The world wasn't perfect, but Jaden Carter was ready to help reshape it, one flight at a time. Jaden stepped out of Chicago's O'Hare Airport into a city that felt alive in a way his small Georgia town never had. The air buzzed with the hum of traffic, the chatter of strangers, and the distant wail of a saxophone from a street performer. His aunt, Marla, a wiry woman with a quick laugh and a penchant for bold earrings, guided him through the bustling terminal to her beat-up sedan. "You're gonna love Chicago, Jaden," Marla said, tossing his backpack into the trunk. "It's loud, it's messy, but it's got soul, just like you." Jaden managed to smile, but his mind was still on the plane, on Karen's cold stare, on his father's voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. The incident had left a mark, not just anger, but a spark of purpose. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was someone who could make people listen. Marla's apartment in Hyde Park was a cozy clutter of books, vinyl records, and half-finished paintings. She was an art teacher at a community center, and her place smelled of acrylics and coffee. Over dinner, deep dish pizza that Jaden swore weighed more than his backpack, she asked about the flight. "I saw the videos online," she said, her fork pausing midair. "People are talking, Jaden. You and your dad stirred something up." Jaden shrugged, poking at his pizza. "I just wanted to get here. Didn't plan on going viral." Marla leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Sometimes the world picks you to carry a torch. You don't get to choose when." That night, Jaden couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, sketching the Chicago skyline, its lights cutting through the dark like promises. His phone buzzed with notifications, messages from friends, strangers, even a news outlet asking for an interview. He ignored them, but one text from his dad stood out. "Proud of you. We're just getting started. Call me tomorrow." The next morning, Jaden woke to find Marla glued to her laptop, a local news site open. "You're trending, kid," she said, spinning the screen toward him. A headline blared, "Teens removal from flight sparks outrage, airline faces backlash." Below it, a grainy video of Jaden walking off the plane, head high despite the security officers flanking him, had over 1 million views. Jaden's stomach twisted. He hadn't wanted this. Attention, cameras, people picking apart his life. But Marla was already on the phone, arranging a meeting with a local activist group, the Justice Collective, who wanted to hear his story. "They're good people," she said, hanging up. "They fight for kids like you, Jaden. Kids who get judged before they get a chance." The meeting was at a community center near Lake Michigan, a low brick building covered in murals of raised fists and blooming flowers. Inside, a dozen people sat in a circle. Young, old, black, brown, white, all with a shared fire in their eyes. The leader, a woman named Aisha with braided hair and a voice like a poet, welcomed Jaden warmly. "Your story's bigger than you," Aisha said. "What happened on that plane? It's not just about one flight attendant. It's about a system that lets people like her act without consequence." Jaden shifted in his seat, feeling the weight of their gazes. "I want it to mean something. Not just for me, but for anyone else who's been through this." Aisha nodded. "Then let's make it mean something. We're organizing a rally outside the airline's Chicago office. Will you speak?" Jaden hesitated. Public speaking wasn't his thing. Drawing was how he expressed himself. But he thought of his dad, grounding a plane with a single call, and the spark in his chest flared. He said, "I'll do it." The rally was set for Saturday, 3 days later. Jaden spent the time with Marla, sketching posters for the event. Bold designs of planes with broken wings, fists breaking through clouds, words like justice and enough in sharp, defiant lines. Marla helped him refine them, her artist's eye, catching details he'd missed. "You've got a gift, Jaden," she said. "Use it to make noise." By Saturday, the airline's Chicago office, a sleek glass building downtown, was surrounded by hundreds of people. Signs waved, drums beat, and Aisha's voice boomed through a megaphone, calling out the airline's history of discriminatory incidents. Jaden stood backstage, his heart racing, his sketchbook clutched like a shield. When Aisha called him up, the crowd roared. Jaden stepped to the microphone, his knees shaky but his voice steady. "I'm not here because I'm special," he began, looking out at the sea of faces. "I'm here because I'm tired. Tired of being seen as a threat just for existing. That flight attendant didn't just kick me off a plane. She tried to kick me out of my own story. But I'm still here. And so are you." The crowd cheered, their energy lifting him. He spoke about his dad, about the humiliation of that walk down the jet bridge, about the need for change. Not just apologies, but real accountability. When he finished, Aisha hugged him, whispering, "You did good, kid." But not everyone was clapping. Across the street, a small group of counter-protesters held signs, "Support our crew and safety first." Among them, Jaden spotted a familiar face, Karen, the flight attendant, her expression unreadable. Their eyes met for a moment, and Jaden felt a chill. She wasn't done either. That night, Jaden and Marla returned to her apartment to find an email from the airline's legal team. It wasn't an apology, it was a warning. They claimed Jaden's disruptive behavior had violated their terms of service and hinted at potential defamation if he continued speaking out. Attached was a grainy security video, edited to show only Jaden standing and raising his voice, not Karen's provocation. Marla cursed under her breath. "They're trying to scare you, Jaden. Classic corporate playbook." Jaden called his dad, who was already on a plane to Chicago. Marcus arrived by morning, his face grim as he read the email. "They're not just coming for you," he said. "They're trying to bury the story. But they picked the wrong family." Marcus contacted a lawyer friend, Tasha Reynolds, who specialized in civil rights cases. Tasha was a force, sharp-tongued, relentless, and unfazed by corporate threats. Over coffee, she laid out their options: file a lawsuit for discrimination, go public with a countersuit, or negotiate a settlement. "But whatever you do," she said, looking at Jaden, "you're the one driving this. What do you want?" Jaden thought of the rally, the faces in the crowd, the kids who'd messaged him online, sharing their own stories of being targeted. "I want to fight," he said. "Not just for me, but for them." Tasha grinned. "Then let's make some noise." The next week was a whirlwind. Tasha filed a lawsuit against the airline, alleging racial discrimination and wrongful removal. The Justice Collective amplified the case, organizing more protests and a social media campaign that spread Jaden's story worldwide. His sketches became the movement's symbols, printed on shirts, posters, even murals across Chicago. But the airline fought back. They released a statement defending Karen, claiming she'd acted in good faith to ensure passenger safety. A smear campaign followed, leaked articles questioning Jaden's character, digging into his school records, painting him as a troubled teen. One article even mentioned a fight he'd gotten into at 15, leaving out that he'd been defending a friend from bullies. Jaden felt the pressure mounting. Friends from home stopped texting, overwhelmed by the attention. Strangers online sent hate messages, calling him a troublemaker, or worse. But Marla kept him grounded, and Marcus was a rock, strategizing with Tasha late into the night. One evening, Jaden found a package outside Marla's door. No return address, just a note. "Back off, or you'll regret it." Inside was a photo of him at the rally, his face circled in red marker. His hands shook as he showed it to Marla. The terminal was silent, the weight of his words settling over everyone. Karen looked away, her hands trembling slightly. Marcus placed a hand on Jaden's shoulder. "We're not done," he said softly. "This airline's going to answer for their training, their policies, everything. But for now, let's get you to Chicago." The airline offered Jaden a first-class seat on the next flight, but he shook his head. "I just want to get there without being treated like a criminal." As Jaden boarded the next flight, he felt different, not just because of the new seat or the apologetic crew, but because of what he'd seen his father do. Marcus hadn't just grounded a plane, he'd grounded an injustice, forcing the world to listen. Jaden realized he carried that same strength, that same refusal to be silenced. In Chicago, his aunt greeted him with a hug, her eyes brimming with pride when he told her the story. "Your dad's a force," she said, "but you're no slouch, either. You stood tall." Back in Atlanta, Marcus was already working with lawyers, pushing for systemic changes in the airline's policies. Jaden knew it wouldn't be easy. Change never was, but he also knew he'd be part of it. His sketchbook, once filled with futuristic cities, now held a new drawing. A plane grounded under a clear sky, with a single figure standing tall in front of it. The world wasn't perfect, but Jaden Carter was ready to help reshape it, one flight at a time. Jaden stepped out of Chicago's O'Hare Airport into a city that felt alive in a way his small Georgia town never had. The air buzzed with the hum of traffic, the chatter of strangers, and the distant wail of a saxophone from a street performer. His aunt, Marla, a wiry woman with a quick laugh and a penchant for bold earrings, guided him through the bustling terminal to her beat-up sedan. "You're gonna love Chicago, Jaden," Marla said, tossing his backpack into the trunk. "It's loud, it's messy, but it's got soul, just like you." Jaden managed to smile, but his mind was still on the plane, on Karen's cold stare, on his father's voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. The incident had left a mark, not just anger, but a spark of purpose. He wasn't just a kid anymore. He was someone who could make people listen. Marla's apartment in Hyde Park was a cozy clutter of books, vinyl records, and half-finished paintings. She was an art teacher at a community center, and her place smelled of acrylics and coffee. Over dinner, deep dish pizza that Jaden swore weighed more than his backpack, she asked about the flight. "I saw the videos online," she said, her fork pausing midair. "People are talking, Jaden. You and your dad stirred something up." Jaden shrugged, poking at his pizza. "I just wanted to get here. Didn't plan on going viral." Marla leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Sometimes the world picks you to carry a torch. You don't get to choose when." That night, Jaden couldn't sleep. He sat by the window, sketching the Chicago skyline, its lights cutting through the dark like promises. His phone buzzed with notifications, messages from friends, strangers, even a news outlet asking for an interview. He ignored them, but one text from his dad stood out. "Proud of you. We're just getting started. Call me tomorrow." The next morning, Jaden woke to find Marla glued to her laptop, a local news site open. "You're trending, kid," she said, spinning the screen toward him. A headline blared, "Teens removal from flight sparks outrage, airline faces backlash." Below it, a grainy video of Jaden walking off the plane, head high despite the security officers flanking him, had over 1 million views. Jaden's stomach twisted. He hadn't wanted this. Attention, cameras, people picking apart his life. But Marla was already on the phone, arranging a meeting with a local activist group, the Justice Collective, who wanted to hear his story. "They're good people," she said, hanging up. "They fight for kids like you, Jaden. Kids who get judged before they get a chance." The meeting was at a community center near Lake Michigan, a low brick building covered in murals of raised fists and blooming flowers. Inside, a dozen people sat in a circle. Young, old, black, brown, white, all with a shared fire in their eyes. The leader, a woman named Aisha with braided hair and a voice like a poet, welcomed Jaden warmly. "Your story's bigger than you," Aisha said. "What happened on that plane? It's not just about one flight attendant. It's about a system that lets people like her act without consequence." Jaden shifted in his seat, feeling the weight of their gazes. "I want it to mean something. Not just for me, but for anyone else who's been through this." Aisha nodded. "Then let's make it mean something. We're organizing a rally outside the airline's Chicago office. Will you speak?" Jaden hesitated. Public speaking wasn't his thing. Drawing was how he expressed himself. But he thought of his dad, grounding a plane with a single call, and the spark in his chest flared. He said, "I'll do it." The rally was set for Saturday, 3 days later. Jaden spent the time with Marla, sketching posters for the event. Bold designs of planes with broken wings, fists breaking through clouds, words like justice and enough in sharp, defiant lines. Marla helped him refine them, her artist's eye. catching details he'd missed. "You've got a gift, Jaden," she said. "Use it to make noise." By Saturday, the airline's Chicago office, a sleek glass building downtown, was surrounded by hundreds of people. Signs waved, drums beat, and Aisha's voice boomed through a megaphone, calling out the airline's history of discriminatory incidents. Jaden stood backstage, his heart racing, his sketchbook clutched like a shield. When Aisha called him up, the crowd roared. Jaden stepped to the microphone, his knees shaky but his voice steady. "I'm not here because I'm special," he began, looking out at the sea of faces. "I'm here because I'm tired. Tired of being seen as a threat just for existing. That flight attendant didn't just kick me off a plane. She tried to kick me out of my own story. But I'm still here. And so are you." The crowd cheered, their energy lifting him. He spoke about his dad, about the humiliation of that walk down the jet bridge, about the need for change. Not just apologies, but real accountability. When he finished, Aisha hugged him, whispering, "You did good, kid." But not everyone was clapping. Across the street, a small group of counter-protesters held signs, "Support our crew and safety first." Among them, Jaden spotted a familiar face, Karen, the flight attendant, her expression unreadable. Their eyes met for a moment, and Jaden felt a chill. She wasn't done either. That night, Jaden and Marla returned to her apartment to find an email from the airline's legal team. It wasn't an apology, it was a warning. They claimed Jaden's disruptive behavior had violated their terms of service and hinted at potential defamation if he continued speaking out. Attached was a grainy security video, edited to show only Jaden standing and raising his voice, not Karen's provocation. Marla cursed under her breath. "They're trying to scare you, Jaden. Classic corporate playbook." Jaden called his dad, who was already on a plane to Chicago. Marcus arrived by morning, his face grim as he read the email. "They're not just coming for you," he said. "They're trying to bury the story. But they picked the wrong family." Marcus contacted a lawyer friend, Tasha Reynolds, who specialized in civil rights cases. Tasha was a force, sharp-tongued, relentless, and unfazed by corporate threats. Over coffee, she laid out their options: file a lawsuit for discrimination, go public with a countersuit, or negotiate a settlement. "But whatever you do," she said, looking at Jaden, "you're the one driving this. What do you want?" Jaden thought of the rally, the faces in the crowd, the kids who'd messaged him online, sharing their own stories of being targeted. "I want to fight," he said. "Not just for me, but for them." Tasha grinned. "Then let's make some noise." The next week was a whirlwind. Tasha filed a lawsuit against the airline, alleging racial discrimination and wrongful removal. The Justice Collective amplified the case, organizing more protests and a social media campaign that spread Jaden's story worldwide. His sketches became the movement's symbols, printed on shirts, posters, even murals across Chicago. But the airline fought back. They released a statement defending Karen, claiming she'd acted in good faith to ensure passenger safety. A smear campaign followed, leaked articles questioning Jaden's character, digging into his school records, painting him as a troubled teen. One article even mentioned a fight he'd gotten into at 15, leaving out that he'd been defending a friend from bullies. Jaden felt the pressure mounting. Friends from home stopped texting, overwhelmed by the attention. Strangers online sent hate messages, calling him a troublemaker, or worse. But Marla kept him grounded, and Marcus was a rock, strategizing with Tasha late into the night. One evening, Jaden found a package outside Marla's door. No return address, just a note. "Back off, or you'll regret it." Inside was a photo of him at the rally, his face circled in red marker. His hands shook as he showed it to Marla. Jaden stood on a makeshift stage, paintbrush in hand, a blank canvas set up beside the projector. Lila was nearby, her camera capturing every moment, while Mateo monitored a live feed of social media, ready to push their hashtags to trend. Marcus watched from the crowd, his presence a steady anchor. As Jaden dipped his brush into black paint, he felt the crowd's energy surge. He began with bold lines, sketching the teen's silhouette, chains snapping around them. The projector beamed, the image onto the airline's building, 30 feet tall, impossible to ignore. The crowd roared, phones raised to record, but across the street, a line of private security guards in dark uniforms stood watching, their faces unreadable. Jaden spotted the black SUV from Chicago parked nearby, its tinted windows glinting. His hand faltered, paint dripping onto the canvas. Lila noticed his pause. "You good?" she whispered, adjusting her camera. Jaden shook his head slightly, forcing his focus back to the canvas. "Just keep an eye on that SUV." As he painted, adding fiery reds and golds to the sky, Aisha handed him the microphone. Jaden's voice carried over the crowd, stronger than he felt. "This isn't just about me," he said. "It's about every kid who's been told they don't belong. Every person who's been judged before they could speak. We're not asking for a seat on the plane, we're demanding the right to fly." The crowd erupted, but the cheers were cut short by a commotion. A group of counter-protesters, led by a man in a suit Jaden didn't recognize, pushed toward the stage, shouting, "Respect our workers!" One held a sign, "Don't demonize our crew." Jaden's eyes locked on Karen, standing among them, her face a mask of defiance. Before Jaden could react, Mateo grabbed his arm. "Check this," he whispered, showing his phone. He'd just posted a thread of Karen's forum messages, exposing her biased rants to the world. The thread was going viral, retweets climbing by the second. "This'll hit them hard," Mateo said. But the tension escalated. A counter-protester threw a bottle, missing the stage but shattering on the pavement. The crowd surged, some shouting back, others trying to calm the chaos. Marcus pushed through to Jaden's side, his voice low. "Stay focused. Finish the mural." Jaden nodded, his brush moving faster now, painting the wings of protesters rising behind the teen. The projector's light flickered as a power surge hit. But Mateo, quick on his feet, rerouted the feed through a backup battery. The image blazed brighter, a beacon against the glass. Then, a voice crackled over a loudspeaker. Not Aisha's, but one of the security guards. "Disperse now, or we'll take action." Aisha grabbed her megaphone, undeterred. "We're not going anywhere. This is our right, our voice." Jaden kept painting, his heart pounding. The mural was nearly complete, a teen soaring, chains broken, wings spreading wide. As he added the final stroke, a golden sunburst behind the figure, the crowd's cheers drowned out the guard's threats. Lila's camera flashed, capturing the moment. But the SUV's door opened and a man stepped out, tall, in a tailored suit, his face obscured by sunglasses. He didn't join the counter-protesters, but watched Jaden, his posture calm yet menacing. Jaden's brush froze, the distorted voice from the phone echoing in his mind. "Stop painting, or you'll regret it." Marcus followed Jaden's gaze. "That's no random suit," he muttered. "Tasha needs to know." After the rally, the Justice Collective regrouped at a nearby diner, adrenaline still high. The mural had gone viral, shared alongside Mateo's thread, putting the airline on the defensive. But Jaden couldn't shake the image of the man in sunglasses. He told Tasha, who scribbled notes, her face grim. "That sounds like Victor Crane," she said. "He's a fixer, hired by corporations to clean up messes like this. If he's involved, the airline's playing dirty." "What's he gonna do?" Jaden asked, his voice steady despite the fear creeping in. "Intimidate, manipulate, maybe worse," Tasha replied. "But we've got evidence. Mateo's posts, your art, the whistleblower's tip. We're stronger than they think." Lila showed Jaden her photos from the rally, each one a story of defiance. "These are going in an exhibit," she said. "Your art, my shots. We'll keep the pressure on." Jaden nodded, but his mind was on Crane. That night, he sketched the man in sunglasses, his face half-shadowed, a plane burning in the background. It was his way of facing the fear, turning it into something he could control. The lawsuit was moving forward, with a court date set for next month. Tasha warned that Crane's presence meant the airline would fight harder, maybe even fabricate evidence. But Jaden felt the fire within him growing. He wasn't just a kid from Georgia anymore. He was a symbol, a spark that could ignite change. As he lay awake, the city's lights flickering outside Marla's window, Jaden made a promise to himself. No matter who came for him, Crane, the airline, or anyone else, he'd keep painting, keep speaking, keep flying. Jaden's sketch of Victor Crane stared back at him from his notebook, the man's shadowed face a constant reminder of the threat looming over the movement. The rally in Atlanta had shifted the tide. Public support for Jaden's cause was surging, with boycotts hitting the airline's bottom line. But Crane's presence at the rally, silent and watchful, signaled that the fight was about to get uglier. Tasha called a strategy meeting at the Justice Collective's Chicago office, a cramped space filled with posters and the hum of determination. Marcus, Marla, Lila, Mateo, and Aisha gathered around a table littered with coffee cups and legal documents. Tasha's laptop displayed a grainy photo of Crane, pulled from an old article about corporate cover-ups. "This guy's a ghost," she said. "No social media, no public records, just whispers of him fixing scandals for big companies. If he's here, the airline's desperate." "What's his play?" Marcus asked, his arms crossed, eyes sharp. "Discredit, disrupt, disappear," Tasha replied. "He'll dig up dirt, plant lies, or scare us into backing off. That call Jaden got, probably his work." Jaden's stomach churned, but he kept his voice steady. "So we hit back harder. The lawsuit, the art, the protests, we don't stop." Mateo grinned, typing on his laptop. "I've got something cooking. Found a backdoor into the airline's internal server. Nothing illegal, just public-facing stuff they didn't secure well. Emails between execs mentioning Crane. If we leak this, it ties him to their smear campaign." Aisha raised an eyebrow. "Careful, Mateo. We don't want to give them ammo to call us hackers." "It's clean," Mateo assured her. "I'm just amplifying what's already out there." Lila, scrolling through her camera's memory card, chimed in. "I've got photos from the rally. Crane in the background, talking to one of their security guys. If we pair that with Mateo's leaks, it's a story the press can't ignore." Jaden nodded, feeling the team's energy fuel his own. "Let's do it. And the art exhibit. Lila, when's it happening?" "Next week," she said. "We've got a gallery in Bronzeville. Your murals, my photos, and a space for kids to share their stories. It's gonna be big." Marcus placed a hand on Jaden's shoulder. "You're leading this, Jaden? But if it gets too hot, you tell me. We're a team." Jaden met his dad's eyes, the weight of trust grounding him. "I'm in, Dad, all the way." The Bronzeville Gallery was a burst of color and sound, packed with activists, artists, and locals. Jaden's murals lined the walls, their bold lines and fiery hues amplified by Lila's stark photos of protests and faces. Kids like Jaden, defiant and unbroken. In the center, a digital screen looped Mateo's leaked emails, carefully curated, to expose the airline's attempts to silence Jaden without crossing legal lines. Jaden stood by his latest piece, a teen holding a paintbrush like a torch, flames forming words: truth, justice, freedom. People stopped to stare, some whispering his name, others shaking his hand. A girl no older than 12 approached, clutching a sketchbook. "I drew this because of you," she said, showing a pencil sketch of a plane with open doors. People, of all colors boarding together. Jaden's throat tightened. "That's amazing," he said. "Keep drawing. Your voice matters." As the night went on, Priya, the journalist, arrived, her notebook in hand. "This is more than an exhibit," she told Jaden. "It's a movement. I'm pitching a feature to my editor. Your story, the collective, all of it. National coverage." But the high was short-lived. Midway through the event, Mateo pulled Jaden aside, his face pale. "Check your phone. Someone just doxed you. Your home address, your school, even Marla's place. It's spreading fast." Jaden's heart sank as he saw the posts online. Anonymous accounts spewing his personal details alongside lies about his criminal history. He recognized Crane's handiwork. Precise, ruthless, designed to intimidate. Lila overheard and grabbed her camera. "We need to document this. If they're coming for you, we're coming for them." Marla, who'd been mingling with guests, joined them, her face grim. "This is escalation. Jaden, you're staying with me tonight, no arguments. And we're getting security for the apartment." The doxing incident lit a fire under Tasha. She filed an emergency motion to expedite the lawsuit, citing harassment and intimidation. The court date was moved up to the following week, and Tasha prepared Jaden for the stand. "They'll try to tear you down," she warned. "They'll bring up that fight from when you were 15, twist it to make you look violent. Stay calm, tell your truth." Jaden practiced his testimony with Marcus, who played the role of a hostile lawyer, grilling him with questions. "Why did you raise your voice on the plane?" Marcus asked, his tone sharp. "I didn't," Jaden replied, steady. "She targeted me, and I defended myself. That's it." Marcus nodded, a proud glint in his eye. "Good. You're ready." But the night before the court date, Jaden got another call. Same distorted voice. "Drop the lawsuit, kid. Last warning." This time the call ended with a sound like a car engine revving, chillingly familiar. Jaden told Tasha, who had the police trace it. But the number was a burner, untraceable. At the courthouse, the air was thick with tension. Reporters crowded the steps, and the Justice Collective rallied outside, their signs echoing Jaden's murals. Inside, the airline's legal team was a wall of suits, led by a sharp-eyed lawyer named Ellison, who seemed too confident for Jaden's liking. Karen sat in the gallery, her face pale but defiant, avoiding Jaden's gaze. As Jaden took the stand, he felt the weight of every eye. His dad's, Tasha's, the judge's. He told his story. The flight, the humiliation, the aftermath. Ellison cross-examined, digging into Jaden's past, but Jaden stayed calm, his voice clear. "I wasn't a threat," he said. "I was a passenger, just like anyone else." The courtroom buzzed, and Jaden saw a flicker of doubt in Ellison's eyes. Mateo's leaked emails, presented as evidence, painted a damning picture of the airline's cover-up. But as the day ended, Tasha pulled Jaden aside. "Crane's here," she whispered, nodding toward the back of the courtroom. There he was, sunglasses off, eyes cold and calculating. That night, Jaden, Marcus, and Marla stayed in a hotel for safety, the doxing making Marla's apartment too risky. Jaden couldn't sleep, his mind racing with Crane's stare, the courtroom, the movement growing beyond him. He sketched to calm himself. A plane taking off, its wings made of faces, each one a person he'd met on this journey. At dawn, Mateo texted, "Found something big. Meet me ASAP." Jaden, Marcus, and Tasha met him at a coffee shop, where Mateo revealed his latest discovery. A recorded call between Crane and an airline exec, discussing a plan to neutralize Jaden's influence, including the doxing and threats. The recording wasn't admissible in court, obtained through questionable means, but it was enough to leak to Priya. Priya's article hit the next day, headlined, "Airlines Fixer, Linked to Threats Against Teen Activist." The fallout was immediate. Protests swelled, the airline stock plummeted, and the CEO announced a full review of their practices. Crane vanished from public view, but Jaden knew he wasn't gone for good. As the trial continued, Jaden felt the tide turning. His testimony, combined with the collective's pressure and Mateo's leaks, was dismantling the airline's defense. But the final day brought a surprise. Karen took the stand, her voice trembling as she admitted to misjudging Jaden, claiming pressure from higher-ups. It wasn't a full apology, but it was a crack in the airline's armor. Jaden looked at his dad, who gave him a nod. They were so close to justice. The courtroom was a pressure cooker, the air thick with anticipation as the judge prepared to deliver the verdict. Jaden sat beside Tasha, his hands clasped tightly, his sketchbook tucked in his bag for comfort. Marcus, Marla, Lila, and Mateo filled the row behind him, their presence a steady anchor. Outside, the Justice Collective's chants echoed faintly, a reminder of the movement Jaden had sparked. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair, cleared her throat. "In the matter of Carter vs. Horizon Airlines, the court finds the defendant liable for racial discrimination and wrongful removal of the plaintiff, Jaden Carter." A murmur rippled through the room. The airline's actions, as evidenced by internal communications and witness testimony, demonstrate a pattern of bias. The plaintiff is awarded $500,000 in damages, and the court mandates comprehensive anti-discrimination training for all Horizon Airlines staff. Jaden exhaled, the weight of months lifting slightly. Marcus squeezed his shoulder, his eyes shining. With pride, Tasha whispered, "We did it, Jaden. This sets a precedent." But the victory was bittersweet. Karen, who'd admitted to misjudging Jaden, faced no personal consequences, only a temporary suspension. The airline's legal team, led by Ellison, looked grim but composed, already planning an appeal. And Victor Crane, though absent from the courtroom today, was still out there, a shadow waiting to strike. As they left the courthouse, reporters swarmed, cameras flashing. Jaden paused to speak, his voice steady. "This isn't just about me," he said. "It's about making sure no one else gets kicked off a plane or out of their own life for who they are." The crowd cheered, and Lila's camera captured the moment, her grin wide. But Jaden's eyes scanned the street, half expecting to see Crane's black SUV. It wasn't there, but the unease lingered. The verdict made national headlines, amplified by Priya's reporting and the Justice Collective's relentless campaign. Jaden's murals and Lila's photos were featured in news outlets, museums, and even a documentary pitch. The $500,000 was a lifeline. Jaden planned to use part of it for college, part to fund art programs for kids in underserved communities. But the money didn't erase the threats or the doxing, and Crane's silence felt more ominous than his presence. Back in Chicago, Jaden and Marla moved to a new apartment with better security, paid for by Marcus and the settlement. Mateo kept digging, uncovering more about Crane's network, a web of fixers tied to multiple corporations, not just Horizon Airlines. "This guy's a ghost for hire," Mateo said, showing Jaden an encrypted file he'd cracked. "He's already working another job, but he's not done with you. I found a message. He's waiting for the spotlight to fade." Lila, meanwhile, was planning a national tour for their art exhibit, with stops in Atlanta, D.C., and L.A. "We're taking this to every city," she told Jaden. "Your art, my photos, kids' stories. We're building something unstoppable." Jaden nodded, but the threats weighed on him. One night he got a text from an unknown number. A photo of his new apartment building, no message attached. His heart raced as he showed it to Marcus, who immediately called Tasha. "We're filing a restraining order," Marcus said, "and I'm hiring private security." Jaden hated the idea of bodyguards, but he agreed. He wasn't just fighting for himself anymore. Lila, Mateo, the kids at the exhibit, they were all part of this now. The art exhibit tour launched in Atlanta, a full-circle moment. The venue was packed, with Jaden's murals projected on massive screens, Lila's photos telling stories of resilience, and kids from local schools displaying their own art inspired by Jaden's journey. Aisha emceed, her voice electric, while Mateo live-streamed the event, hashtags trending worldwide. Jaden spoke to the crowd, his confidence growing with every word. "This started on a plane, but it's bigger than that now," he said. "It's about claiming our space, our voice, our wings. We're not just passengers. We're pilots of our own stories." The crowd roared, but Jaden's eyes caught a flicker of movement. A man in a dark jacket slipping out the back. Not Crane, but someone watching too closely. He whispered to Lila, who nodded and discreetly snapped a photo. Later, Mateo ran the photo through facial recognition software he'd borrowed from a tech collective. The man was a low-level operative, likely working for Crane. "They're keeping tabs," Mateo said. "But we've got eyes, too." Tasha used the photo to strengthen their case for a restraining order, tying it to Crane's network. She also uncovered a new lead. The whistleblower from Horizon Airlines, a manager named Carla, was willing to testify about the airline's broader practices: racial profiling, ignored complaints, and pressure to silence dissent. Her testimony could spark a federal investigation. Jaden felt the stakes rising. This wasn't just about his case anymore. It was about dismantling a system. He sketched a new mural design, a fleet of planes, each piloted by a kid like him, soaring over a city where every door was open. He shared it with Lila, who grinned. "This is the one for DC, it's gonna shake them." The DC exhibit was set for a community center near the National Mall, a high-profile stage. Jaden, Lila, and Mateo arrived a day early to set up, joined by Aisha and a small security team Marcus had hired. The air was electric with possibility, but Jaden couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The night before the exhibit, Jaden was alone in the center, touching up a mural, when the lights flickered. A shadow moved in the hallway. Too quick to be a coincidence. Jaden grabbed his phone, texting Mateo. "Someone's here." Before he could hit send, a figure stepped into the light. Not Crane, but the man from Atlanta, his dark jacket unmistakable. "You should have stopped," the man said, his voice low, a knife glinting in his hand. "Crane doesn't like loose ends." Jaden's heart pounded, but he stood his ground, gripping a paint roller like a weapon. "You tell Crane I'm not going anywhere." The man lunged, but a shout cut through the dark, Aisha charging in with a security guard. The man bolted, disappearing into the night. Jaden's knees shook as Aisha pulled him into a hug. "You're okay," she said. "We've got you." The incident lit a fire under the team. The DC exhibit went ahead, bigger and bolder, with Jaden's mural of the kid pilots projected across the community center. Carla, the whistleblower, attended, her presence a quiet bombshell. She met Jaden afterward, her eyes fierce. "You're making them nervous," she said. "Keep going." As the tour continued, Jaden knew Crane was still out there, watching, waiting. But he also knew he wasn't alone. His art, his team, his family, they were his wings, lifting him higher than any plane could. The near attack at the DC Community Center sent shockwaves through Jaden's team. The security guard's quick response had saved Jaden. But the incident confirmed Victor Crane's reach was longer and more dangerous than they'd feared. Aisha tightened security for the tour, adding more guards and briefing the Justice Collective on heightened vigilance. Marcus, furious but focused, insisted Jaden stay with him at a secure hotel while in D.C. Jaden sat in the hotel room, sketching, to steady his nerves. His latest piece showed a kid standing on a runway, facing a storm of shadows shaped like planes, their paintbrush glowing like a beacon. The image was raw, fueled by the fear of the knife-wielding man and the fire of defiance. It sparked. Lila, who'd stayed up editing photos from the exhibit, saw the sketch and nodded. "This one's for L.A., she said. "It's you, Jaden, facing the storm." Mateo, hunched over his laptop, broke the silence. "Got something," he said, his voice urgent. He'd intercepted another encrypted message from Crane's network, this one hinting at a plan to discredit Carla, the whistleblower, before she could testify in the federal investigation. "They're going after her job, her reputation. Same playbook they used on you." Mateo told Jaden Tasha, joining via video call, was already on it. "Carla's ready to fight," she said. "She's got documents, emails, training manuals, incident reports, proving Horizon Airlines ignored racial profiling complaints for years. If we protect her, her testimony could blow this wide open." Jaden's resolve hardened. "Then we protect her. She's risking everything for this." Marcus nodded. "I'll talk to my contacts at the FAA. If Carla's evidence holds, they'll have to launch a full audit of Horizon's operations." The LA stop of the art exhibit tour was a spectacle, held at a downtown gallery with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's sprawl. Jaden's storm-facing mural dominated the space, projected onto a massive screen, while Lila's photos, now including shots of the DC incident, carefully framed to protect Jaden's safety, lined the walls. Kids from local youth programs added their own art, inspired by Jaden's story, creating a tapestry of voices demanding change. The crowd was diverse: activists, celebrities, even a few politicians drawn by the growing media storm. Priya, the journalist, was there. Her national feature now expanded into a podcast series about Jaden's fight. She pulled him aside before his speech. "You're not just a story anymore," she said. "You're a symbol. People are listening. Jaden. Really listening." Jaden's speech was his boldest yet. "This fight started on a plane, but it's about more than that," he told the crowd, his voice echoing through the gallery. "It's about who gets to fly, who gets to dream, who gets to be seen. We're not just breaking chains, we're building wings." The applause was deafening, but Jaden's eyes scanned the room, wary of another shadow. Security was tight, but Crane's absence felt like a trap waiting to spring. After the event, Mateo showed Jaden a new lead. A burner phone linked to Crane had pinged a tower near the gallery that morning. "He's close," Mateo said. "Or someone working for him." Lila, reviewing her photos, froze. "Jaden, look." She zoomed in on a shot from the crowd, a man in the back, partially obscured, but his posture matched the operative from DC. "He's following us." Jaden's heart raced, but he pushed the fear down. "Then we keep moving. He wants us to stop. We won't." Back in Chicago, Carla prepared for her testimony before a federal panel investigating Horizon Airlines. Jaden and the team returned to support her, knowing her words could tip the scales. The night before the hearing, Carla met them at a secure cafe, her face lined with stress but her eyes fierce. She handed Tasha a flash drive. "This has everything," she said. "Training logs, emails, even a memo from an exec telling staff to flag passengers based on gut feelings. It's damning." Jaden admired her courage. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You could lose your job." Carla smiled faintly. "Because I've seen too many kids like you get hurt. Someone has to stand up." The hearing was tense, broadcast live on news networks. Carla laid out Horizon's systemic failures, her voice steady as she presented the evidence. Tasha and Marcus watched from the gallery, while Jaden, Lila, and Mateo live-streamed reactions from the Justice Collective's office, amplifying her words online. The panel's questions were sharp, but Carla held her ground, her testimony painting a picture of an airline that prioritized profit over people. But Crane's network struck back. Hours after the hearing, a smear campaign hit Carla. Leaked emails doctored to suggest she'd falsified reports for personal gain. Mateo traced the leak to a server linked to Crane, but the damage was done. Public opinion wavered, and Carla's job was suspended pending an internal review. Jayden felt the blow like a punch. They're trying to break her, he told the team. We can't let them. Determined to fight back, Jayden and Lila organized a rapid response exhibit outside the federal building where Carla's hearing took place. They set up pop-up screens, displaying Jayden's murals and Carla's story, with Lila's photos showing the faces of other passengers who'd shared similar experiences. Mateo hacked together a website, wingsforall.org, where people could submit their stories of discrimination, creating a digital archive of truth. The exhibit drew hundreds, including reporters who'd followed Jayden's story. Priya's podcast episode about Carla dropped the same day, countering the smear with hard evidence from the flash drive. The tide began to turn again. Social media erupted with support for Carla, and the FAA announced an expanded investigation into Horizon's practices, but Crane wasn't finished. Late that night, Jayden's hotel room phone rang. He answered, expecting Marcus, but heard the familiar distorted voice. You think you're untouchable, kid? Check your window. Jayden froze, peering through the hotel curtains. Across the street, a figure stood under a streetlight. Crane, sunglasses gone, his face cold and clear. He raised a phone, as if waving, then vanished into the dark. Jayden called Marcus and Tasha, who alerted security. The hotel went on lockdown, but Crane was gone. Tasha's voice was grim. He's toying with us, trying to shake you before the tour's final stop. The final stop was New York, the biggest stage yet. Jayden knew it was their chance to cement movement, but also Crane's chance to strike hardest. He sketched a new piece, a city of planes, each one lifting off, piloted, by kids holding brushes, cameras, and laptops. It was a vision of hope, but also a challenge to Crane. We're not stopping. New York City buzzed with an energy that dwarfed Chicago and Atlanta combined. The final stop of the art exhibit tour was set in a Brooklyn warehouse turned gallery, its brick walls and high ceilings a perfect canvas for Jayden's murals and Lila's photos. The space was alive with anticipation, packed with activists, artists, and supporters from across the country. The Justice Collective had pulled out all stops, with wingsforall.org now hosting thousands of stories from passengers who'd faced discrimination, each one a thread in the movement Jayden had sparked. Jayden's newest mural dominated the space. A city of planes, each piloted by a kid wielding a brush, a camera, or a laptop, soaring over a skyline where every door was open. The image was projected onto the warehouse's exterior, visible from blocks away, a beacon in the night. Lila's photos flanked it, portraits of Carla, the kids from earlier exhibits, and protesters, their faces fierce with hope. Mateo's digital archive played on screens, scrolling stories from the website, while Aisha's voice rallied the crowd outside. Jayden stood backstage, his heart pounding. This was more than an exhibit. It was a declaration. The federal investigation into Horizon Airlines was gaining steam, fueled by Carla's testimony and the leaked documents Mateo had uncovered. But Victor Crane's shadow loomed larger than ever. His appearance outside Jayden's hotel in D.C. had rattled the team, and security was now a constant presence, with Marcus's hired guards patrolling the venue. Lila adjusted her camera, her eyes scanning the crowd. You ready for this? She asked Jayden, her voice steady despite the tension. Jayden nodded, gripping his sketchbook. Ready as I'll ever be. His speech was the event's centerpiece. As he stepped to the microphone, the crowd hushed, their energy a tangible force. This started with me being kicked off a plane, Jayden said, his voice clear and strong. But it's not about me anymore. It's about all of us, every kid, every person who's been told they can't fly. We're not just demanding a seat. We're building a world where everyone gets wings. The applause was thunderous, phones flashing as the crowd recorded. But Jayden's eyes caught a flicker in the back. A man in a dark coat, his face half hidden by a hood. Not Crane, but too familiar, too deliberate. Jayden kept speaking, refusing to falter. But he signaled to Mateo, who was monitoring the live stream. Mateo nodded, discreetly alerting security. As the exhibit continued, the mood was electric. Kids from local youth groups added their art to the walls, and musicians performed songs inspired by Jayden's story. But the tension spiked when Mateo pulled Jaden, Lila, and Aisha aside. "That guy in the coat?" he whispered, showing his phone. "I ran his face through my software. He's one of Crane's guys, same crew as the DC operative." Crane's lips curled into a thin smile. "You're brave, kid. But bravery doesn't stop consequences. Walk away, or I'll burn everything you've built." Jaden held up his sketchbook, showing the glowing plane breaking through the storm. "You can't burn truth," he said. "Every kid, every story, every mural, they're bigger than you." Crane's smile faded, and for a moment Jaden saw something flicker in his eyes. Doubt, maybe fear. Then Crane turned, got back in the SUV, and drove off. But Jaden knew it wasn't over. The New York exhibit marked a turning point. The FAA's investigation expanded, with Carla's evidence leading to sanctions against Horizon Airlines and 2 other carriers. The Justice Collective's website, wingsforall.org, became a global platform, with stories pouring in from around the world. Jaden's murals and Lila's photos were featured in galleries from London to Tokyo, and their youth workshops inspired a new generation of artists and activists. But Crane remained a ghost, slipping through the cracks despite the Fed's efforts. Mateo traced his movements to a private security firm in Miami, but the trail went cold. Tasha warned Jaden to stay vigilant. "He's down, but not out," she said. "Men like Crane don't quit." Jaden returned to Chicago, his heart full, but heavy. He enrolled in an art program at a local college, funded by the settlement, and started a scholarship for kids like the girl from the Bronxville exhibit. His latest mural, painted on a school wall, showed a fleet of planes, each one carrying a dream, soaring over a world without chains. One night, as he sat with Marla, sketching under the city's lights, he got a text from an unknown number. "Keep flying, kid. You've earned it. No signature, no trace." Jaden showed it to Marla, who raised an eyebrow. "Crane?" she asked. Jaden shook his head. "Doesn't feel like him. Maybe someone who's been watching, someone on our side." He didn't know who sent it, but it didn't matter. Jaden had his team, his art, his voice. He was flying, and no one could ground him now. Jaden's life in Chicago settled into a new rhythm. College classes, late-night sketching sessions, and workshops with the Justice Collective. But the shadow of Victor Crane lingered like a storm on the horizon. The mysterious text, "Keep flying, kid, you've earned it," had left him hopeful but wary. Was it a supporter, or Crane playing another game? Mateo's attempts to trace the number hit a dead end, but the team stayed vigilant, knowing Crane's silence was a tactic, not a surrender. The FAA's investigation into Horizon Airlines and other carriers was now a full-blown scandal, with Carla's evidence exposing a network of systemic bias across the industry. 3 executives resigned, and new regulations were proposed, requiring airlines to report and address discrimination complaints transparently. Jaden's murals and wingsforall.org were credited as catalysts, their impact rippling from courtrooms to boardrooms. But Jaden knew the fight wasn't over until Crane was stopped. Tasha, working with federal agents, uncovered a lead. Crane had been spotted in Miami, operating out of a private security firm tied to multiple corporate cover-ups. "He's gone quiet because he's planning something," Tasha warned during a team meeting at Marla's new apartment. "We need to draw him out, force his hand." Mateo had an idea. "We leak a fake event," he said, his eyes bright. "A big one, like a national summit for Wings for All. Make it look like Jaden's the keynote. If Crane's obsessed with stopping you, he'll show." Jaden hesitated, glancing at Marcus, who'd been quieter since the New York exhibit, his worry for Jaden's safety clear. "It's risky," Marcus said. "But if we control the trap, we can end this." Lila grinned, her camera ready. "I'll document it. If Crane shows, we'll have proof." The plan was set. A fake summit announced for a Chicago community center, hyped on social media as the culmination of Jaden's movement. Behind the scenes, Tasha coordinated with the FBI who'd been tracking Crane's firm. Jaden painted a new mural for the bait, a massive plane breaking through a cage, its wings formed by thousands of hands. The image went viral, ensuring Crane would see it. The summit day arrived, the community center buzzing with staged energy, volunteers posing as attendees, security posing as staff. Jaden stood at a podium, pretending to rehearse a speech, his heart pounding as he scanned the room. Lila was hidden in a balcony, her camera trained on the crowd. Mateo monitored security feeds, while Marcus and Aisha waited backstage with FBI agents in plainclothes. The trap worked. Halfway through the staged event, a man slipped in. Dark jacket, hood low, moving too deliberately. Mateo's voice crackled in Jaden's earpiece. That's him. Crane's operative. Same guy from DC and New York. But then, another figure appeared at the back. Victor Crane himself. No disguise. His cold eyes locked on Jaden. The room tensed as agents moved in. But Crane raised his hands, calm and calculated. No need for drama, he said, his voice smooth. I'm just here to talk. Jaden stepped down from the podium, his sketchbook clutched like a shield. Talk? You sent threats, doxed me, sent your goons with knives. What's left to say? Crane's smile was thin. You're a kid who got lucky. But you're in over your head. Walk away, and I'll leave you alone. Jaden held his gaze, the crowd's murmurs fading. I'm not walking away. You tried to ground me, but I'm still flying. And now the world knows who you are. Before Crane could respond, FBI agents swarmed, cuffing him and his operative. Tasha had provided enough evidence, Mateo's leaks, Lila's photos, Carla's documents, to tie Crane to criminal intimidation and conspiracy. As he was led away, Crane's eyes lingered on Jaden, not with anger, but something like respect. With Crane arrested, the movement soared to new heights. The FAA's regulations passed, mandating anti-discrimination training and oversight across the airline industry. Horizon Airlines faced a class action lawsuit from other passengers, bolstered by wingsforall.org's archive. Carla was reinstated with a promotion, her courage paving the way for others to speak out. Jaden's murals became a global symbol, exhibited in cities from Paris to Johannesburg. He and Lila launched a nonprofit, Wings for All, funding art programs for youth and scholarships for activists. Mateo joined as their tech lead, building platforms to amplify marginalized voices. Aisha and Marla mentored the next generation, while Marcus took a role advising the FAA on equity reforms. On the one-year anniversary of the plane incident, Jaden returned to Atlanta, standing on the same tarmac where it all began. He unveiled a final mural, painted on an airport hangar. A fleet of planes, each piloted by a kid, soaring into a sky without limits. Below it, in bold letters, "We all fly." As he stepped back, the crowd, family, friends, supporters, cheered. Jaden looked at Marcus, who nodded, his pride unspoken but clear. Lila snapped a photo, capturing Jaden's smile, while Mateo live-streamed the moment to millions. That night, Jaden sat alone, sketching one last piece. A single plane, its wings made of every face he'd met. Carla, Aisha, Lila, Mateo, Marcus, the kids from the exhibits. It wasn't just his story anymore. It was theirs, woven together, unstoppable. He closed his sketchbook, the weight of the past year lifting. Jaden Carter had grounded a plane, a system, a fixer. Now, he was ready to fly into whatever came next. Years later, Jaden stood in a college art studio, teaching a class of teens how to turn their stories into murals. His nonprofit had grown, with chapters in every major city, and wingsforall.org was a global platform for justice. Crane was serving a 5-year sentence, his network dismantled. The airline industry, though far from perfect, was changing, one policy, one voice at a time. Jaden's phone buzzed. A text from Lila, now a photojournalist traveling the world. Your mural's on a billboard in London. Keep flying, Jay. He smiled, then turned to his students, holding up a blank canvas. Your turn, he said. What's your story? The sky was clear, and Jaden knew, no matter what storms came, he'd never stop painting the truth. The end.